thank you everyone for joining. So this is exciting for us. We've been working with GYO for a little under half a year, but primarily looking at membership tools, that is particularly administrative tools that coaches and directors can use to run their programs more efficiently. So whether that's how you're scheduling your practices, your scrimmages, your exhibition matches with other institutions, how you're managing your rosters, how are you evaluating where your students are in terms of their player skill and ability, and how they grow over time in your own program. Even how the national office is sharing messaging, important dates and information with our membership en masse. Is there anything better that we can do instead of just the NACE Discord, which many of you use? Many are familiar with the scrimmage channels on the NACE Discord, and understand it's a text-based field you're entering in there, and you're hoping someone sees it and responds to that, so that you can do the work that you need to do. So we've identified quite a while back GYO as being a front runner in the space and developing a lot of the same tools and services that we see in athletics, and that's been used for many decades, and not just bringing that into the competitive esports environment, but really evolving that so that it is much more fluid and the interactivity is much more dynamic. And so for us here at the national office at NACE, we are really excited to share this. This is the first time we're showing all these tools to our member institutions. And as Shawn is the one that actually built the thing, he's going to actually take the lead in sharing that with you. But just for context of why we're engaged with GYO, what we expect this to do for our member institutions, and how this, in my belief, will greatly benefit every institution within NACE. That's the background. It gives you tools to do what you're doing a lot better, with a lot less stress and a lot faster. But it hinges upon having everyone on the same systems for that connectivity to exist. And that's what Shawn's going to show you here today. So thank you, guys. If you have questions specific to NACE or something that national office might be able to address, just go ahead and kick us a question or a comment through the Discord, through our emails, give me us a phone call, and you should all have that contact information now. So, okay, Shawn, sorry about that. It's your turn now.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So, yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've appreciated working with Michael and his team over the last few months. My goal for this event is to do a very quick overview of who we are and what we're up to, and then take you on a tour through the platform. We'll also make that a fairly quick affair, because ultimately I want to leave a lot of time for questions and answers. So everybody is muted by default, but please use the chat box and chat feature inside your webinar tool, and we will answer those questions towards the end here. So hopefully by the end you have a good understanding of our goals and where we're going, and sort of what the future looks like, and how we can help you run your esports organizations. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get started here. Once again, you should be viewing my screen right now, and if for some reason you're not, please let me know in the chat. Well, we'll start by talking a little bit about GYO, which is the name of our product. Our company is actually Harina Data, and GYO is the name of our platform. And we also have GYO Dashboard, which is going to be part of this demo. But we were actually founded in 2017 and have been working in the esports space for about 5 or 6 years now. But we spent a lot of time doing the development, and ultimately only just emerged in our alpha phase at the beginning of the year in January. And we are now emerging from beta this month. So we like to say that we're not necessarily a new company, but we are newly emerged. So we've really only begun our journey. And at the beginning, you know, we really focused in on how our platform can help players to go pro, to find opportunities in esports at the scholastic levels, find scholarships, and you know, we've had some strong success in all of those things. For example, we had a combine in March where we had 120 players receive scholarship offers. But what we discovered was that as we began working with universities like yourselves, we noticed that you really didn't have a whole lot of tools and functionality to actually operate your day-to-day functions. And many of you were getting trapped in spreadsheets and processes involving a lot of copying and pasting, and probably pulling out your hair as well. So we saw that as an opportunity, and really it was early conversations with Michael and his team at NACE that really opened up this sort of notion that universities need a lot of help for the day-to-day functions that come with operating an esports organization. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're talking today, is that we have developed a new product called GYO Dashboard that is meant to be almost like a Salesforce type tool for the esports world. Organizations, teams, universities, schools. Ultimately, we are trying to solve some of the major problems that you have in your day-to-day logistics, including what we have here on the screen, such as the recruiting pipeline, being able just to manage new recruits and current players all the way through potential alumni of your program. Obviously, event scrimmaging and scheduling, which is one of the key sort of pieces that we're focusing on today. We've built that into the platform as well. Cross-conference communication. So just the ability to regularly communicate with your fellow universities and your fellow schools and be able to share content and data. And then official global calendars, so that you've got one centralized calendar that all the schools are trying to adhere to for the big events. And then, finally, this idea of player and team strength analysis. So all of these features currently exist in the platform. We're working on continuing to expand and make them even better. But at the end of the day, we are developing this platform to make your life as an esports organizer or an esports coach a little easier, so you can spend more time on player development and less time stuck in Excel spreadsheets. So with that said, let me go ahead and show off the platform. And once again, I'll be going through this fairly quickly, so please do feel free to, as soon as you have a question, pop it into the chat, and we can always come back and revisit any screens if I whip past your question. But please do answer any or ask anything that comes to mind. So we are now looking at the front page of GYO, and GYO is our forward-facing esports platform that is built specifically for the players. So we've built this so that players can come on, get their statistics, understand their own skills. And what we've done is we've created a platform that's extremely modular. So what I mean when I say that is we support lots of games, not just one or two. We actually spent 1.5 years developing a platform that would be extremely modular and allow us to deploy microsites for each game that we want to support very quickly. So if you have an Apex Legends team and just an Apex Legends team, you can come to our Apex microsite and never get bombarded with League of Legends data because you don't need it. If you are a League of Legends player, similarly, you can go to the League of Legends page and only interact with League of Legends data. So it's very great. It's great for players that are really focusing in on one title, but it's also great for the players that are kind of jumping around and trying new and different things, because they can have all of their stats and data and information aggregated underneath one centralized account. And speaking of stats, let's go ahead and dive straight into them. So our esports stats typically are derived straight from the publisher. And if you've used some of the other tools out there, then I'm sure that you've seen some of these. So I'll kind of gloss over some of this just because it's pretty common. But at the end of the day, we've got all the stats that you'd expect. Your raw statistics, your KD ratios, your win rates. And then we have what are our proprietary GYO metrics, which are our internal measurements for what kind of player are you. For example, here we've got aggressiveness, defensiveness, farming score, vision, strategy, teamwork. These are meant to be 10,000-foot view type metrics that give you a base understanding of what kind of player a player is, or how they are approaching their day-to-day work and their training. So for example, we can look at Rainy right here. And by the way, looking at these scores, think of it a lot like baseball averages. So it's a 0 to 1,000 scale. And typically the cap for a lot of the scores that you're looking at on the screen is about 750. So a score in the 400s and 500s is generally accepted to be a good score. So we can take a look here at Rainey and see that, he's fairly aggressive. His defense score is okay, but he's got a really strong vision score and a pretty low farming score. So we're looking at somebody that probably isn't going to be a jungler for you. Now, once you're ready to dive into those stats, you can sort of see from their raw performance exactly what kind of play that they are attempting, but you can at least start with a base understanding that at the moment, he's not really focusing much on gold generation, for example. So let's take one of our players, Marco here, and we'll dive into his specific gameplay. And again, a lot of this is pretty typical to some of the other tools that you've seen out there. So I'll gloss through it pretty quickly and just want to show that at the end of the day, we've got it. As long as they're playing on public servers, we're downloading their match history. We can do daily activity processing. We can obviously throw all kinds of charts and graphs in order to show things off. This is something that we're going to continue to develop out in order to make more and more interesting tools that help you understand what some of this data means. At the end of the day, for our players, we are storing their data so that historically you can go back and just see, well, how did they perform over this time period? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? What are some of their historical feats? All this data we are actively capturing. But more than just the stats data, we understand that your recruiting process actually involves an awful lot of understanding the personality of the player. So we've added some features that allow you to get into the mindset and the personality of the players as well. For example, we ask all of our players to complete interviews. So we've got an esports interview here that we can take a look at. And these are just basic questions that are meant to drill down into what type of person is this player? How long have you been playing competitively? What are you looking for in a team and or teammates? And these are kind of like those job interview questions that you can take a look at in order to assess, is this person actually a fit for my program? You can also see their base demographic information, their age, whether or not they're seeking scholarships, whether they desire to be a pro in the future. You can keep track of that information. And then speaking of the recruiting process, we have a scholarship interview as well that allows us to capture some of the base information you look for as a college recruiter. What are the majors that they're trying to study? What is their most recent GPA? When did they graduate high school? So we're trying to capture some of the data points that make the player more interesting than just their statistics. You can also see how they interact with other players. If they're making blog posts, if they're being engaging, you can really try to get a sense for who is this player before you bring them on the team. And then importantly, you can also see what other organizations the player is part of. One of the things that we know is very important is that if the player is currently active on another team, we obviously don't want other schools coming along and trying to recruit them. So we can keep track of what this player's history is, where they are, who they are playing for, so that you can try to avoid those kinds of conflicts. So with that, that's enough of the front end and the player focus. What I'm now going to do is shift to our back-end GYO dashboard, which is meant to be a more of, as I mentioned before, that Salesforce type product for esports. So as you can see, the navigation has changed a bit. The color scheme has changed a bit. We're on an entirely new site that is synced with the front end. So your data and information does go back and forth. But at the end of the day, this is not a site that a player will find much use from. This is a site that coaches will love, that administrators will love, that team captains will love. If you have a reason to actually try to manage and organize your players, that's what this space is for. So we are now looking at GYO University, which is our demo test account. And what you're going to see here is a blend of both real and test data. So it is all live. So everything you're seeing is actually loaded. But obviously some of it is, fake players and things like that, as well as a few real players sprinkled in to make sure that we can show off some features. So first thing I'll start with is each of these pages that you create within the platform ultimately operate much like a social media page would. So this is a public-facing university profile page that you can use to promote your program. It's search engine optimized so that you can have link backs to your program. It's obviously part of our public database where people are looking for schools and scholarship opportunities every day. And you can get direct links to share this content anywhere you want. Your own personal websites, your university websites, your social media pages. You have the ability to link people directly here so they can interact with you. And I'll show you some of those interactions as we go forward. Just like with any other social media profile, you can get in some about information, your address, your website. If you've got highlights, then you can include those. We can keep track of your sponsors so that you can promote them and make sure that they feel appreciated. Any accomplishments that you've won, trophies that you've won. Historically, you can set up a hall of records for yourself. And then you can actually use it as a blogging platform to help keep people up to date on what the organization is up to. And with that said, with the blogging, what I want to jump into next is the actual player management, because I'd like to show you here that now we start to get into the nuts and bolts of what it means to manage your program. And this is where you have all of your players register, but not just your players, your followers as well. This would include fans from the college, esports hopefuls that maybe want to join the team in the future. It may include parents who are just trying to keep track of their players and see how they're performing. Fans and followers can join in order to interact with your program and help you grow it and get you some hype around the things that you're doing. Then, of course, you have the ability to look at players and then staff members as well, so that you can actually set up and manage your entire organization and include as many admins, coaches, team managers as you need. Speaking of teams, we'll jump here into the teams organization, because obviously as a university or an esports org, you have multiple games that you're going to participate in. And so for that, you can create multiple individual rosters, which we call either teams or practice squads. The big difference being that teams are public facing so that you can actually promote the teams and guests and fans can find the teams, whereas practice squads are more composed of players that you kind of want to test things out with, but you don't want the public to know that they're working together. So a great example of this would be, well, what happens if I mix these 5 players together? What do they start doing? You can do some of those experiments, or you can just use it as a way to bring on board players that are sort of on that bubble and help them to develop in your program to work towards joining the official team. As I mentioned, the teams themselves are publicly viewable. And so what happens is, as you create these teams, you actually create a landing page and this own organizational structure for the team as well. So this has a custom link that is specific just to this team. If I'm a parent, I don't necessarily know what Overwatch is if my son or daughter plays League of Legends. So I'm only going to focus in on what they're doing from a League of Legends standpoint. So I can follow them here, because this is the team's custom page with its own sponsors, its own content, its own blog posts, its own history. We can see that this also allows the coaches to dive into more functionality, because now we're getting down to the level of, well, what does the actual roster composition look like? I can switch around who are my starters, who are my bench players. I can add tags so that I can assign different roles to the various players, just to keep track of what kind of players and what kind of roster compositions I'm building. And then, of course, you have the full ability to search on all of these things so that you can quickly and easily organize it. So at the end of the day, getting into this idea of the universities is sort of managing students at a very high level, but the teams is where the coaches really start to get their hands dirty. And speaking of that, with the data and statistics, coaches and players and teammates, don't want to dig through thousands of records in order to find their data and information. So this is custom leaderboards built specifically for this team so that you can very quickly go through and see, all right, who is the most aggressive player on our entire squad? Who has the highest KD ratios? Who's got the most damage per death rankings? All across the board. All of this data is automatically aggregated for you so that, again, you can get out of this mode of having to copy and paste results from spreadsheets into your various tools or other spreadsheets. So at a high level, this functionality that we've built is something that we're going to be expanding on very quickly and rapidly, because that's one of the things that we saw whenever we were working in the data space was that there's a lot of raw data out there, but there's not a whole lot of context. So if I could describe our goal for what we do with the data, I would say that we add context to this data. So this is the data that is generated by your players in your practices, in your programs. And it's not just when they're randomly at home messing around with new champions or the little brother steals their controller. Those types of matches you can eliminate from their play database because you're focusing in on your program. Moving here now into the coaching tools section. Once you have that ability to drill down the stats, what we want you to do as a coach is have the ability to start setting goals around those statistics. So once you understand how your players are playing, for example, you can take something like a goal to improve an aggression score over a period of time. So for Rob 2K, in this particular example, he has a current value of 0.335, and we want to see him increase that value to 0.39 by September 25th. And each day this will update so that you can see their progress. And you can see down here that we have two players. One is a farming individual who's trying to improve and is doing so. And the other is trying to improve their strategy, but they're now actually declining. So this can be part of your coaching progress or process to just analyze the players and make sure that you are having success getting them into a regimented program so that they're actually improving themselves. So now let's go ahead and jump over to the calendar, which starts to get us into the event management side. And from a calendar perspective, you're able to create and manage just about any type of event that you need for your team or your organization. You can track things from school breaks. You can create travel tournament listings, tryouts. It's all very easy to manage your calendar in order to make sure that your players have a centralized place to actually interact with your team. There's no more excuses if they aren't attending because you've got a public calendar that is available to them at any time, 24/7, so that they know exactly when things are coming. And they receive email notifications through the platform as well to help bug them and make sure that they're paying attention. And then once you get into the actual events themselves, you can see that, again, this idea of these individualized pages, this page itself is its own URL and link that you can share with others to get them committed and interested in joining. You can send invitations to other teams or players. And if you wanted to promote this as a public event, you could do so by linking this to your social media pages. And then here's the important part is once the event's complete, we automatically download the data from those events and display it for you. So this is an actual event that was in the system, and these are 7 matches that were played when this event was scheduled, and we pulled this data immediately in so that now coaches have a direct point of reference for when they want to go back and look on the history of the play. If you have that moment where you think, that practice last Thursday, something didn't quite sit right with me. I wonder what they were doing that led to so many defeats. Well, you can come in here and you can analyze it. And we store this data for you permanently so that if a year from now, for some reason, this Thursday still haunts you, then you can come back and you can take a look. And just to show off what an actual match looks like, if you really want to dive into data, we've got all of the data that you'd expect. everything gold earned, damage dealt, top performances based on top aggression players, defense players, so on and so forth. And then, of course, full statistics, item usage, stats driven by position, so that you can compare how they played compared to the other player in the same role on the other team. You know, for data nerds and data scientists, this is, you know, something that they have a lot to chew on and digest. But for those that don't necessarily have the skills to read that, that's why we set up the GYO scores, to try to give you at least a base understanding of some of the core concepts that they're working on. So let me go back here now. So we talked about events. So now I'd like to get into the event calendar and the Scrim Finder. And we are going to travel back up to the university level. So we are now looking at our university once again. And underneath university, I'm going to go to calendar and event coordinator. And this is a brand new feature that was developed after consulting with Michael and his team, because we talked about just how difficult finding and scheduling practices, scrimmages, and official matches, how difficult that can be. So this tool has been built from the ground up to try to ease that process, and we'll continue to develop it out and improve it based on your feedback. So if we go here to configure settings, which is where I would start, what I'm doing is I'm basically saying to the rest of the organizations, both publicly on the GYO website or just directly in NACE, what is my general availability to schedule scrimmages? So I can come in here and let's say that Mondays I'm unavailable because those are the days that we do private team workouts. But on Saturdays, you know what, Saturdays, we could really be open anytime from noon, really all the way up until midnight or 11 p.m. Our kids like to stay late. Late night players. So you can save and keep track of your general calendar availability, so that you can basically post a permanent message that says, we're looking for scrimmages, we're looking for practices. These are generally the times that we like doing them. So send us invites within those time ranges and we'll talk. You can also identify blackout dates. So for example, on Labor Day, maybe school was out and all your students weren't on campus. So you can set up blackout dates and make sure that you're not getting invitations during those dates. So once you have configured this, then you can go back to the coordinator, and this is where you begin to actually search for others to define scrimmages. So you can set a start date and an end date. You can search based on which organizations, all organizations you follow, or just NACE organizations, for example. And then you could specify by game. And once you save this filter, this is going to show you each organization that has come into our system and ultimately said, you know what, we're open to scrimmaging, we're open to practicing, we want to hear from you. So you can come in here and quickly identify that, well, I like the Rytech Solutions teams. I think that they're pretty cool. I see that they're open on Mondays, they're open on Wednesdays, but they're not open Thursday. Well, let me try and reach out and let's schedule a scrimmage on Friday. So you can use the invite features, send the invite directly to them for the event that they participate in, one of your practices or one of your official matches, and that will immediately contact their coaches and representatives so that they can make the decision whether or not they can attend. This will send email notifications. It will also send internal message notifications. So at the end of the day, this will be a great communication method just to get people to try and form scrims, form tournaments, and form events alongside you. So before I jump into Q&A, because I do see a few questions in here, I want to show just a couple quick additional features. For example, we have document management built into the platform, so that this is something as simple as managing your sales sheets. If you have any waivers, claims, paperwork that students need to fill out, you can store it here. There's sponsor management tools so that you can keep track of sponsors and make sure that you're giving them their due, because that's very important. There's also the ability to post classifieds. These are things from your official scholarships, which is then published publicly so that anybody that browses the website or finds us through a Google search will see that your scholarships are open and available, and they can contact you for more information. And then the other thing that I think is really cool is this idea of an offers platform, which we've built in after we did the Combine event, where I mentioned that we had 120 players that received messages from schools that were scholarship offers, but we reached out to many of those students to understand their process, what they liked, what they didn't like, and we found that over 50% of the students didn't look at the email because they thought it was spam. So we had to reach out and let them know, hey, no, this is a real invitation. This is a certified offer, so you need to respond to it. So in response to that, we created this offers platform around that concept where only certified, approved universities that have verified that they are representing the university are allowed to send offers. So it's like a second inbox, but that inbox can never receive spam. It can only receive true offers. So the players are going to focus on it more, and that's going to lead to more responses based on the offers being sent out. So with that, that concludes my quick 10,000-foot view sweep. So let me go through the questions here real quick. I do have just a couple more slides to hit, but I like to hit questions first. So if you have any, please go ahead and type them in. Start with Richard Zapp. Do we collect any data on FGCs, Smash, Street Fighters, DBZ Fighters, etc.? Currently, we do not. However, you can manage Smash Brothers teams and rosters through the platform. So there's a difference between statistics that we support and tools that we support. From a tool standpoint, roster management, player invites, messaging, even scheduling of events, you can do that with any game in our database, Smash included, DBZ Fighters, all of them. You won't be able to see the statistics tools. However, we are building manual import tools so that if you do hand-recorded data, you will be able to upload it directly into the system and keep track of it that way. So that'll be coming in the next probably 60 to 90 days. We are actually now engaged with Capcom to work on potentially getting Street Fighter data, but it's a little early to promise that we'll have it. But we are hopeful that we can get fighting games better supported in the future. At least for now, most of the publishers don't do a lot with data. Are you able to comment on how GYO scores are calculated at all? Yes. So let me actually show you. We'll go ahead and go back into this profile. So whenever we calculate the GYO scores, they are based on each individual game. So each game will be a little bit different, but we try to keep the same overarching schemes. So if I go to what do these values mean, this is where we break down what we're using to calculate into the metrics. We don't show the exact ratios, and frankly, they're tweaked frequently as we do machine learning and processes to understand the accuracy of our own data. But you can come in here and you can understand, all right, I'm looking at their aggression score. It doesn't look as high as most of the competitors we're playing against. So I need to look at their KD ratio. I need to look at their damage dealt to players and objectives. I need to look at their whether or not they're keeping kill streaks or multi-kills. And so as a coach, you can see those top level type skills that go into those calculations so that you can begin to make some of your own assessments. So we do outline these calculations at least at a base level of what the raw metrics are for each and every game that we support. And yep, Tanner just linked directly to this page. So if you want to take a look, feel free. Would we be able to specify by skill rank when it comes to scheduling and searching for scrims? Great question. I love that question. And that is one of our big goals. And I'd say the next iteration of what we're going to do with the event coordinator is exactly that. So we really want to first generate team strength metrics, which are currently in process, where we take a look at a roster or team composition and generate an overall skill measurement, and then that will be displayed directly on this screen as you're interacting, so that you can try to find matches that will ultimately be more even to what you're doing. That is our next major initiative, and we've already started some of the groundwork for that. So I think that we're going to have some of that available within the next month. Talked about fans and followers being able to register for the platform. Would this be able to be funneled into an intramural league? Certainly. No reason why it couldn't. We do have some very basic league and tournament management tools that we've created, as well as the concept of the Combine, which we are creating tools to allow you to operate those types of events on your own. So that is something that if you wanted to do an intramural tournament that led into your recruiting process, you could set that up. Or if you just wanted to do an intramural campus event, you could certainly set that up as well. We don't necessarily put any restrictions on what type of players you're tracking. So you could create a team for intramural players only and set up events that just they can interact with very easily. When and how will we be able to access our GYO account? So I will answer that shortly. That's actually one of the last slides, so we'll hang up on that one. To piggyback on my last question, is the platform capable to run brackets and tournaments as well? Not currently, however, we are working with a group like Challenge in order to do bracket integration. And so you will be able to embed Challenge brackets directly into the platform and interact with them at a base level. And that is coming very soon. So with those questions done, I don't see any more. So let me hop into my last slides here, and we will talk about pricing for the platform, which, you know, when we set out to put this together, we had a very simple goal. We do not want to divide universities and organizations into haves and have-nots. So we've created a premium profile model that allows us to keep the budget extremely low so that it will fit into the vast majority of organizations and universities' budgets. You know, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, you are seeing a value and the platform is able to grow as you grow. But importantly, if you are not ready to switch to premium, and if you can't quite get that budget approval yet, then we have all of the features that you saw, with the exception of a couple of automations, are actually available as a free member. So the calendars are free. The event scheduling, that's free. You can schedule an event with somebody paying premium, or you can schedule it with somebody that's a free member. We don't care. At the end of the day, it's important that you're getting matches. So we want you to have that interaction. Team management is still included in the free platform, as is talent pool messaging capabilities. Where the premium starts to differentiate itself is when you're starting to really expand your own personal program as opposed to interacting with other programs. So if you want that automation so that you don't have to look up stats manually, those are the tools that are built into the premium profiling. Some of the document management tools and things that are perks, those are built into the premium model. But at the end of the day, we want all NACE members to be able to interact with each other, ultimately be able to connect with each other and develop their programs together without having to split up based on budget capabilities. And the other thing that I want to point out is that we've built this platform for you. Quite literally, you know, a lot of the features that I've shown off today came out of discussions with Michael and his team. They came out of conversations I had with you while we were there in Harrisburg at the NACE convention. And so your features, your bug reports, your ideas, we want them all. And we're going to be reacting to them very quickly to grow this platform into something that truly becomes a part of your day-to-day processes. You know, we are very new, and I think that we've got a strong start, but there's tons of features that we haven't built out yet. But we're working on them day in and day out. I've got a full development staff, and they're dedicated just to this. So we want to grow alongside you. So with that said, There was a question on when you can access your accounts. You can start today. Everybody in the NACE program, you have a publicly listed university profile currently on GYO, and you can go directly to that profile and claim it so that we can then connect your account and tie your admin account directly to your university profile so that you can begin editing, interacting, inviting players, and exploring what we're doing with GYO. So with that said, thank you very much for your time today. If you have more questions, please continue to toss them into the chat, and I'll let Michael jump in now. If he remembers to take himself off mute.
So this is, it's exciting because I don't know if Shawn showed this. I don't think I caught it. But in the scheduling and the scrimmaging kind of calendar setup, right, there's a difference between the calendars that NACE members see with each other and certainly our ability to put important dates or NACE competition specifically on those calendars, and then opening up to anyone who might be on the GYO platform, which could be non-NACE member institutions, more likely clubs, just thinking numbers-wise. But when we start talking about that philosophical separation between varsity level esports and club level esports and wanting to compete against similar type institutions, as well as institutions that are at the same competitive level, this finally enables it much better than what we've been able to do with Discord in the past. So that at the beginning of the calendar year, again, you can set up all your practices throughout the year, throughout the semester, for your team against other NACE member institutions and be done with it. No more having to every day or every week starting to develop these schedules across the board. And I mean, that's a huge advantage for the association. That's a huge advantage for our membership, and enables you to return your time to focus on the other priorities of your institution now that you can do all this legwork at the very beginning. So we're excited to see this unveiled to the rest of the membership. We're excited that to get everyone on board and what we at the national office are going to be able to do for all of our members, let alone what each individual institution is going to be able to do on their own. So that's pretty exciting. The work that Shawn and his team have done so far has been amazing. And we're excited to see what you come back with as a user and telling us, we can improve a certain way, or, what can we offer, a new tool or anything like that. This is the start. It's a great start, but there is definitely room for improvement. But this is right now for collegiate esports, the bleeding edge, and a lot of the administrative tools that just don't exist right now that now suddenly do. So thank you, Shawn, for your team and your team's work. Certainly reach out to us, reach out to Shawn, reach out to Tanner over at GYO. He put his email address in the chat box below if you have any questions or need any help. And I'll return it to Shawn now. It looks like we got maybe one more question that popped in. But again, thank you for everyone's time.
Yes, so claim the page. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. And I will show you exactly how to do that. So I'll pull up a new tab here. So to claim your page, just go to the standard GYO site, gyo.gg, and beneath the search menu here, you will find all schools. So if you click on that, this will take you to the full listing of all the schools that we have in the system. And if you look up your school by name, Ashland, not sure if there's a representative of Ashland, so sorry for picking on you, but I know that this hasn't been claimed yet. So we've got Ashland University, and then this button right here drops open this menu, and you can see the claim this listing. So once you do that, then you would enter in your contact email, contact phone number. You don't have to enter in a reason because we know why you're claiming, but we will then get this approved. Really, it only takes us an hour or two. Marks only has report error. So if you have only report error, that means that somebody else may have come along and claimed it previously. So these have been up for some time. So we've sometimes had different coaches or individuals come on board or it could be a simple error. So if you see that, then definitely reach out to me or Tanner, who left his contact info, and we'll get that fixed. I do recommend that, yes, you should be registered to claim. It is free to create an account. So you just have to use the register button, which will appear up here at the top whenever you're not logged in. Let me see if I can quickly show that. So if you're not logged in, there's a registration button up here at the top. And again, that is free for you to create. If your school is not showing up in the list, I see that, Chris, then it's possible that you came on board or somehow we missed you during that process. So just send an email to Tanner. We'll get you in today and get you up and running and started. So because each of our schools already have a page, we don't have to create an org account. We can just create a coach account. So that is correct. You can create either an organizational or a coach account. At the end of the day, the differences aren't too significant. But what you don't want to do is create a brand new university by going into your create organization. We have seen that a couple people did find us early and they ended up creating their own university accounts, and that ended up creating duplicates in the system. So we're going through the process of cleaning those up. Not a big deal. If you do end up creating your own, that's perfectly fine. Just let Tanner know and we will sort you all out. All right. Any other questions? I see somebody else typing. Matt? Type your email address. Tanner, could you drop that in again? And while Tanner is dropping his contact email in, I'll also point out that at the organizational dashboard, we do have contact links, and you can contact either sales or support. We also have support chat that is available that you can use in order to handle any small issues that you may have. So reach out to either Tanner or Matt directly, or if you end up forgetting their email address later, this will ultimately get directed straight to them. And I see Kevin has another question. Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you to everybody who took the time here on a late day. I know that we're at the end of the day for a lot of folks, so I really do appreciate that. And please do be very honest in your assessments, what you see, what you like, what you don't like. We are definitely at the stage where we're developing this very rapidly. So we're going to be able to unveil features very quickly, but occasionally that's going to come with your occasional bug or two. But we promise, a strong support to make sure that you're up and running and not hindered for very long at all. So I think that's it. Thank you again to everybody who's joined. We'll make this recording available, and really looking forward to working with everybody. Michael, anything else before we sign off?
Again, we'll got a recording of this session, and we also have a recording of the morning session as well. I guess I could turn on my camera here. Hi, guys. We're going to basically take the better of the two and try to share it. I'll relay whatever Shawn and his team wants to do, and we'll make sure we send it out really through everywhere we can, through Discord, social media, and email, obviously, to make sure even the people who weren't able to attend for whatever reason, or maybe they're not on our NACE Discord, but they're still a NACE member school, we want to make sure everyone has a chance to see this, because it is incredibly important for us to start bringing everyone on the same platform, because that's the real scaled advantage of the association. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Again, we're going to continue to get the message out here. I'll figure out with Shawn and your team if you want to do more demos later. I know you have some team members who are going to start reaching out to our member schools as well. So that should be starting pretty quickly now as well. But other than that, no, this is great. Thank you very much. I see a lot of great comments in the chat as well. If there's any other comments, though, feel free to reach out to us at the national office or directly to Shawn and his team, and we'll do our best to figure out how to help.
Yep, we will schedule a direct personal demo with anybody that wants it and wants to discuss specifically how the platform can be used for their program. So just reach out to our team.